That stupid gadget won't save you now, Marcus sneered, pushing me toward the basement door. I stumbled, my hand instinctively touching the smartwatch my aunt had given me for my 16th birthday. My name is Emma, and at 16, I never thought I'd be grateful for a piece of technology my stepdad had mocked relentlessly. Please, Marcus, I'm sorry, I whispered, though I wasn't sure what I was apologizing for this time. Maybe for getting an A instead of an A+ on my physics test, or for taking too long in the shower, or for breathing too loudly during his favorite TV show. With Marcus, anything could trigger his rage. Sorry doesn't cut it anymore, he growled, his fingers digging into my arm. I could smell the alcohol on his breath, stronger than usual. Mom was away at a conference, and Marcus had been drinking since noon. You need to learn respect. The basement door creaked open, revealing the dark staircase below. Our basement wasn't the cozy, finished kind with a TV room or game area. It was the stuff of nightmares. Cold concrete, no windows, and a single bare bulb that flickered ominously. Marcus had accidentally broken the bulb last week, leaving the space in complete darkness. As he shoved me forward, I pretended to stumble, using the moment to press the emergency button on my watch 3 times, just like Aunt Sarah had taught me. If you're ever in trouble, she'd said, her eyes serious, this will send an SOS with your location to me and the local police. Marcus had laughed when he saw the watch. What a waste of money, he'd said. Like anyone would want to rescue you anyway. The stairs were steep, and in the darkness, I missed the last step. I fell forward, my hands scraping against the rough concrete. Above me, Marcus laughed. Maybe a night down here will teach you some manners. The door slammed shut, followed by the distinctive click of the deadbolt. I sat in the darkness, my heart pounding. The basement air was damp and cold, carrying the musty smell of mold and forgotten things. Somewhere in the darkness, I could hear water dripping steadily. Drip, drip, drip. Like a countdown to something I didn't want to face. My watch vibrated softly. Aunt Sarah's response. Hold on, Emma. Help is coming. Stay strong. I clutched the watch close, its dim display providing the only light in the oppressive darkness. Upstairs, I could hear Marcus moving around, his heavy footsteps creaking across the floorboards. He was probably getting another drink, settling in for another night of making my life hell. He'd married my mom 2 years ago, and since then, our house had become a prison of careful steps and held breaths. Mom didn't see it, or maybe she didn't want to see it. Marcus was charming when she was around, playing the role of the concerned stepfather perfectly. Emma's been so rebellious lately, he'd say, shaking his head sadly. I'm just trying to help her stay on the right path. The right path. I almost laughed at the thought. Marcus's right path was paved with bruises I had to hide and explanations I had to invent. I'm just clumsy, I tell my teachers when they noticed my limping. I fell during soccer practice, I'd say when friends asked about the bruises on my arms. The watch vibrated again. Police are 5 minutes out. Stay quiet. I held my breath, straining to hear any movement upstairs. Marcus's footsteps had stopped, replaced by the sound of the TV blaring some sports game. In the darkness, memories of previous punishments flooded back. The time he'd locked me in my room for 2 days because I'd forgotten to take out the trash. The night he'd made me stand in a corner for hours because I'd gotten home 10 minutes late from school. Each incident carefully timed to happen when Mom was away, each bruise strategically placed where it wouldn't show. But this time was different. This time, I wasn't alone with my fear. The watch on my wrist was more than just a timepiece. It was a lifeline, a connection to people who would believe me, who would help me. Suddenly, the TV volume upstairs dropped. I heard Marcus curse, followed by the sound of heavy footsteps approaching the front door. My heart nearly stopped when I heard the authoritative knock. Police, open up. The basement felt colder as I heard Marcus's muffled voice above, probably trying to charm his way out of trouble like he always did, but the watch vibrated one final time. We've got you, Emma. Hold on. More voices joined the commotion upstairs. The sound of the front door being forced open. Multiple footsteps. Marcus's protests growing louder, more desperate. Where is she? A firm voice demanded. Who? I'm here alone, Marcus replied, his voice carrying that fake confusion he perfected. The basement, another voice said. The signal's coming from the basement. The footsteps grew closer, and I heard the deadbolt being forced open. Light flooded the stairway as the door swung wide. revealing two police officers with flashlights. "Emma?" one called out. "Are you down there?" "Yes," I answered, my voice shaky but clear. "I'm here." The next few hours passed in a blur of lights, questions, and concerned faces. The police officers helped me up the stairs, documenting every bruise, every scrape. In the harsh light of our living room, I saw Marcus handcuffed on the couch, his face twisted with rage. "She's lying," he spat. "She's just a troubled kid who locks herself in the basement for attention. Ask her mother." But this time, his words couldn't hurt me. One of the officers, a kind-faced woman named Officer Torres, was already scrolling through my watch's history. The device had been quietly collecting data for months, set in spikes in heart rate coinciding with Marcus's disciplinary sessions. Timestamps of previous basement incidents, even audio clips automatically recorded when my distress levels peaked. "Smart girl," Officer Torres murmured, looking at me with understanding eyes. "You've been documenting everything, haven't you?" I nodded, thinking of Aunt Sarah's insistence when she gave me the watch. "It's not just for emergencies," she'd said. "It's for truth-telling." The paramedics arrived next, checking me over in the ambulance while Marcus was escorted to a police car. As they treated my scrapes and documented my older injuries, my watch buzzed again. "Aunt Sarah, I'm on my way. You're safe now, sweetheart." "You're so brave." At the hospital, more questions came. Child services arrived, taking detailed notes as I finally let out 2 years of carefully guarded secrets. The nights locked in various rooms, the accidents that weren't accidents, the carefully constructed lies I'd been forced to tell. "Why didn't you tell anyone sooner?" the social worker asked gently. I thought about Mom, about how happy she'd seemed with Marcus at first, how she'd finally smiled again after years of struggling as a single parent. "I didn't want to ruin everything," I whispered, "and I didn't think anyone would believe me." "The evidence on your watch is pretty convincing," Officer Torres said, still reviewing the data. "Multiple incidents of elevated stress patterns, consistent with your timeline of abuse. Audio recordings of threats. Even GPS data showing you confined in various locations around the house." My aunt arrived like a whirlwind of protective energy, wrapping me in a fierce hug that smelled of her familiar lavender perfume. "I knew something was wrong," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I could feel it every time I visited, but your mother." "Where is Mom?" I asked, suddenly realizing she hadn't been mentioned in all the chaos. "They're trying to reach her at the conference," Aunt Sarah explained, her face hardening slightly. "She's not answering her phone." The hospital decided to keep me overnight for observation, though my injuries weren't severe. Aunt Sarah stayed with me, setting up camp in the uncomfortable hospital chair despite my protests. "I'm not leaving you alone again," she said firmly. "I should have pushed harder when I suspected something was wrong. Should have done more than just give you that watch." The watch was enough, I told her, touching the device that had become my silent protector. It gave me proof, made me feel less crazy when he'd tell me I was imagining things. Around midnight, Mom finally arrived, her face pale and shocked. She rushed to my bedside, tears streaming down her face. "Emma, baby, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. I should have seen it. Should have known." I wanted to be angry with her, wanted to scream about all the times I tried to hint at what was happening. But looking at her devastated face, I saw what Marcus had stolen from both of us. Trust, security, peace in our own home. "Mrs. Sullivan," Officer Torres interrupted gently, "we need to discuss some things. Your daughter's watch has provided extensive evidence of ongoing abuse. There will need to be an investigation." Mom's face crumpled further, but she straightened her shoulders. "Of course. Whatever you need. Emma comes first now. She should have always come first." As they talked in the hallway, Aunt Sarah squeezed my hand. "You know what happens now, right?" I nodded, feeling oddly lighter despite everything. "He can't hurt us anymore." "Not just that," she said, a small smile playing on her lips. "That watch, it did more than save you from the basement. Every piece of evidence it collected, every recording it made, it's building a case that he can't charm his way out of. Your stepdad's going to learn that technology isn't so stupid after all." For the first time in 2 years, I felt myself really smile. Marcus had always been so confident in his ability to manipulate situations, to make people see what he wanted them to see. But he'd underestimated both me and the simple device he'd mocked so often. As I drifted off to sleep that night, my watch buzzed one more time. A message from Officer Torres. Evidence review complete. Arrest warrant formalized. He won't be getting out on bail. You can rest easy now. I closed my eyes, finally feeling safe. Tomorrow would bring more questions, more challenges, more healing to do. But tonight in this hospital room with my aunt's steady presence beside me, I knew one thing for certain. Sometimes the smallest things, like a watch given with love, can break the biggest chains. 6 months later, I sat in a courtroom, my watch still securely fastened to my wrist as Marcus's sentencing hearing began. The past months had been a journey of healing, therapy sessions, and rebuilding trust with Mom. We'd moved in with Aunt Sarah temporarily, our old house holding too many dark memories. The prosecutor had built an airtight case, largely thanks to the evidence from my watch. What Marcus hadn't known was that the device had been systematically backing up everything to a secure cloud server. Every threat, every incident, every time he thought he was being clever, hurting me where it wouldn't show. It was all there, time-stamped and documented. Your Honor, the prosecutor addressed the judge. The evidence collected from the victim's smartwatch presents a clear pattern of calculated abuse. The defendant didn't just harm Ms. Sullivan physically. He orchestrated a campaign of psychological torture, carefully timed to coincide with her mother's absences. Marcus sat at the defense table, wearing an ill-fitting suit that couldn't hide how prison had already changed him. Gone was the confident swagger, the charming smile that had fooled so many people. He looked small now, defeated. His lawyer had advised him to plead guilty, hoping for leniency. But the judge had seen the complete evidence package, over 2 years of documented abuse, all neatly cataloged by a device that Marcus had repeatedly mocked as stupid and worthless. Mom sat beside me, holding my hand tightly. She'd been through her own healing process, attending therapy sessions and domestic violence support groups. I should have protected you, she'd say often, but I'd learned to respond with what my therapist had taught me. We both survived him. Now we're both getting stronger. The judge's voice brought me back to the present. Mr. Howard, stand for sentencing. Marcus rose slowly, his handcuffs clinking softly. For a moment, our eyes met, and I saw a flicker of the old rage there. But this time, I didn't flinch. I had nothing to fear from him anymore. This court has reviewed extensive evidence of systematic abuse against a minor. The judge began, her voice stern. What makes this case particularly disturbing is the calculated nature of your actions. You deliberately timed your abuse to avoid detection, used psychological manipulation to maintain control, and showed a complete disregard for the physical and emotional well-being of a child in your care. Aunt Sarah squeezed my shoulder supportively as the judge continued. The evidence provided by the victim's smartwatch has given this court an unprecedented look into the pattern of domestic abuse. This technology, which you repeatedly belittled, has become your undoing. The sentence came down hard, 15 years, with no possibility of parole for at least 10. As Marcus was led away, he turned one last time, his face twisted with hatred. But his expression changed to confusion when he saw me smiling. I held up my wrist, making sure he saw the watch that had ended his reign of terror. It wasn't the same one. Aunt Sarah had bought me a newer model after the police kept the original as evidence. But it represented the same thing: freedom, safety, and the power of being believed. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited with cameras and questions. My story had gained attention, not just because of the abuse, but because of how it was discovered. Tech magazines wanted to interview me about using smart devices for personal safety. Domestic violence organizations reached out about incorporating similar technology into their protection strategies. How does it feel? One reporter asked. Knowing your watch helped bring your abuser to justice. I thought carefully before answering. It feels like validation. For every kid who's ever tried to tell someone about abuse and wasn't believed. Technology can't lie or be charmed. It just tells the truth. Mom and I moved into our own apartment a month after the sentencing. It's a small place, but it's ours, filled with sunlight and new memories. My watch sits on its charger by my bed each night, no longer needed for protection but kept as a reminder of survival. I started a blog about my experience helping other teenagers understand how technology can be used for safety. Sometimes I get messages from kids in similar situations, and I always tell them the same thing: document everything. Truth has power, and nowadays, we have more ways than ever to prove it. Last week, I received a letter from Officer Torres. She's been using my case as a training example for other officers, teaching them about modern tools for detecting domestic abuse. Your story has already helped save 3 other kids, she wrote. Your courage didn't just save yourself. As I sit here now, wearing my watch and writing this story, I think about how Marcus never understood what real strength looks like. He thought power came from fear and control. But real power, it comes from survival, from speaking truth, from using whatever tools you have to fight back. My watch shows 3:47 p.m. It's just a normal Tuesday afternoon now. No fear, no hiding, no holding my breath when I hear footsteps. Just the quiet tick of time moving forward, marking each moment of freedom I've earned, 1 second at a time.